Long ago, in the foggy harbor town of Blackwater Cove, there lived a woman named Clara Bennett who baked pastries sweeter than summer peaches. Folks traveled from neighboring counties just to taste her maple pecan pies. Yet behind her warm smile sat an old sorrow tied to her kin. Clara was 41 winters old when the final crack split her family tree. It happened during the harvest feast at her mother's grand cedar house overlooking the docks of Maine. Candles flickered gold while waves slapped the shore beyond the windows. Her mother, Mavis, ruled the gathering like a queen bee in a crowded hive. Clara's younger brother, Simon, sat proudly beside his wife and their 4 noisy children. Laughter rolled across the room thick as gravy at supper time. Then Mavis rose carrying velvet gift boxes trimmed in silver ribbon. One by one, she handed them to every grandchild except Clara's 2 children, Lucy and Jonah. The room turned quiet enough to hear the fireplace crack. Lucy, only 9 years old, stared at the empty table space before her. Jonah, barely 6, tugged at Clara's sleeve and whispered, "Mama, did Nana skip us?" Before Clara could speak, Simon's oldest boy laughed through a mouthful of pie. "Guess they didn't deserve one." No soul corrected him. Simon studied his drink. Mavis pretended not to hear. Clara felt anger rise inside her chest like thunder over the Atlantic Sea. Still, she would not cry before folks who fed on humiliation like girls on scraps. She stood slowly and said, "Children, fetch your jackets." Mavis frowned sharp as broken glass. "Clara, don't make a scene." Clara met her mother's eyes steady as lighthouse stone. "You already made one for me." Lucy quietly tucked away the hand-painted seashell card she had made for her grandmother. Jonah slid from his chair confused and wounded. Clara picked up the untouched blackberry cobbler she had brought and walked out into the freezing night beside her children. The drive home through the snowy harbor roads felt colder than January tidewater. Jonah fell asleep after 10 minutes with his cheek pressed to the window. Lucy stayed awake staring at the storm clouds ahead like she carried grown-up worries inside a child's heart. At last Lucy whispered, "Mama, why doesn't Nana care about us the way she cares about the others?" Clara gripped the steering wheel tighter. "This has nothing to do with you, sweetheart," she answered softly. "Some people choose cruelty when they should choose love." Back inside their little apartment above the bakery kitchen, Clara wrapped Jonah in blankets while her phone buzzed non-stop. Mavis accused her of humiliating the family. Simon called her jealous. Her father, Walter, sent only one weak message, "Your mother's upset now." For years Clara had swallowed insults like bitter medicine. Forgotten birthdays. Unequal praise. Sideways comments wrapped in fake concern. But using children as pawns before a crowded supper table was a wound too deep to stitch shut. So Clara typed one final note into the family message thread. "Do not invite us again. My children are not tools for your lessons." Then, without fully knowing why, she added, "Your reckoning is coming." Morning arrived with fresh excuses from Mavis. She claimed the gifts were rewards for accomplishment. Simon's children earned school trophies and debate medals, she said proudly. Perhaps Clara's children simply needed stronger ambition. Clara nearly laughed at the foolishness. Jonah still struggled tying his boots, and Lucy spent evenings sketching cartoons beside the bakery oven. Children were not racehorses meant to earn affection through performance. That afternoon Clara visited her old friend June, who owned a flower stall near Harbor Street. June listened quietly while trimming roses. When Clara finished speaking, June sighed deeply and said, "Honey, that wasn't discipline. That was planned humiliation." Winter gossip spread through Blackwater Cove faster than smoke from a chimney fire. Mavis told neighbors Clara abandoned the harvest feast out of envy. Soon bakery customers cancelled orders, saying they wished to avoid family trouble. Still, Clara baked late into the night beneath the glow of kitchen lamps. Cinnamon pear tarts. Maple pecan pies. Lavender sugar rolls. Every recipe carried memories from the hard years after her divorce, when baking had been the only thing keeping her spirit alive. Then one evening June brought troubling news. Simon's wife, Rebecca, had launched a pastry business online called Harbor Hearth Bakery. The colors, logos, and desserts looked almost identical to Clara's own bakery, Moonrise Sweets. Worse still, Rebecca bragged online that the recipes came from old family traditions. Clara nearly choked laughing at the lie. Their grandmother burned biscuits more often than she baked them. Those recipes belonged to Clara alone. So Clara began gathering evidence the way farmers gather wood before blizzard season. Screenshots, receipts, old recipe journals, customer messages. Lucy watched quietly before saying, "That's stealing, Mama." Clara nodded sadly. Sometimes grown folks steal dreams instead of dollars. Then June's daughter secretly showed Clara messages from a hidden family chat. Weeks before the harvest feast, Mavis had written, "Only buy gifts for Simon's children. Clara needs reminding where she belongs." Clara felt sick reading the words. Her children had not been forgotten by accident. Their humiliation had been arranged careful as a card trick. Even Walter had weakly asked if it was necessary, yet he never stopped it. Soon Clara met with a sharp lawyer named Denise Holloway in a nearby fishing town. Denise studied the documents carefully and said, "Your sister-in-law copied your bakery almost crumb for crumb, and your records prove you built yours first." Clara spent the savings meant for a new industrial oven to protect Moonrise Sweets instead. Denise reminded her gently, "You're not wrong for defending what honest hands created." By springtime both bakeries applied for booths at the Blackwater Harbour Market. Rebecca arrived carrying glossy signs and expensive packaging. Clara arrived with handwritten menus, warm pastries, and June's bright sunflowers decorating her table. Though Rebecca's booth glittered prettier than a department store window, customers drifted toward Clara after smelling maple and butter floating through the chilly morning air. Before long, townsfolk whispered how similar both bakeries tasted. Then Clara calmly laid out her proof. Business permits, dated notebooks, culinary school certificates, years of receipts. The crowd studied the papers while mamas spread through the market like wildfire through dry pine. Mavis stormed forward red-faced with anger. "You're tearing this family apart over baked goods," she shouted. Clara stood steady as Harbour Rock and answered, "No, Mother. You tore it apart the moment you punished children for control." The square fell silent. Church women gasped reading Mavis's messages about excluding Lucy and Jonah on purpose. Rebecca's husband turned pale after discovering the recipes and branding were never truly hers at all. Before the whole harbour market, the truth finally cracked open like ice in spring thaw. Rebecca's booth was shut down for missing permits, and customers quietly stepped away from her tables. Mavis could no longer hide behind polished smiles and gossip. That night Clara returned home exhausted but lighter somehow. She left the family thread forever and blocked Mavis and Simon from her life. Only Walter remained unblocked, though Clara no longer built her peace around his silence. Months passed, and Moonrise Sweets flourished brighter than anyone expected. Long lines stretched through the market each Saturday morning. Meanwhile, Harbour Hearth Bakery faded into silence like an abandoned shipyard. One warm evening, Clara placed 2 silver gift boxes beside Lucy and Jonah's plates during a backyard supper with June and friends. Inside were handwritten letters, caramel candies, and art supplies chosen with love. Lucy looked up softly and asked, "Mama, are we still a family without Nana?" Clara smiled gently and brushed flour from her hands. "Family isn't the people who demand your silence," she said. "Family is the people who guard your heart when storms come." And folks around Blackwater Cove still tell this tale whenever pride and cruelty creep into a household.
It's wonderful.
For real love never asks
finally
children to
have
unkindness,
you all
and peace
here
blooms
together
strongest where
at
truth is
Cedar
served warm,
Harbor.
honest, and shared
To
freely like pie at a good
friendship
table.
and good